Hello and welcome to the show. I am your host, Terry Ann Russell, and I am joined today by the beautiful Keegan Smith. On today's podcast, we will be discussing question and answers. And I love these kind of shows because they're so fun and we get to dive into some really deep things. So, Keegan, tell me what's been going on with you. Have you got a lot of questions about what we've been talking about and what's going on?
Yeah, and people are really paying attention, and people are starting to answer the calling, I think, in their own life. So they're starting to have really deep reflection and ask themselves questions that they normally wouldn't. And I think that more and more people are coming out of this victim mode and realizing they are the captains of their lifeboat and that they can steer the ship. They can also toss people off, and they can also toss life rafts. So it's been very nice, and it's leading to deeper conversation and deeper reflection within myself. Because I always say a deeper conversation with someone is a deeper conversation with myself. So I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, and it gives you a moment to sort of reflect in your life, some
Mhm.
changes that you maybe need to make, or maybe you've been aware of them, but you're like, oh, I don't know if I should do this yet. And so I always find that the universe provides, right? Here it is in front of our face now. Okay, yeah, this is for me.
Exactly, exactly. And makes
So
you
let's
feel less
dive
alone
right
in it too.
in. Yeah. So let's dive right in. My friend and client Mary from Germany wrote us on my Facebook page, and she writes, "How do I build this protective shield bubble around me? I have trouble meditating in general, but I sort of pray. I say my thank yous and pleases to my sun amulet, but when I put it on in the morning and when I take it off in the evening, I started asking for the shield in this little ritual and wondered if it might be enough to build up this protection against draining energies. Thanks a lot." That's a great question. So often we're doing things, but we're not sure if it's working. And I always say, if it's working if you're not becoming drained or things around you are moving pretty smoothly. What do you think?
I think that that's a great question too. And I also like to tell people if it feels good, it is God. I know it's cliche, but it's true. How do you feel in it? If you're still feeling afraid or you're still feeling bogged down or you're still feeling like this is unachievable, then maybe that's not the thing for you. But if you're feeling peace in it and you're feeling calm in it and you are getting those moments of joy, even if they're small moments, then it is working. And you should gravitate more to those things that bring those joys and those peaceful moments and that shield of protection and when you feel the safest.
Yeah, I think and sometimes people think it's too simple, right? Oh, I just ask or I just say it and that's it, that it works. And it is often that simple. We as humans put so much more emphasis on, well, there should be something different that comes from it. So I think often we get caught up in our logical minds. But that's a great question, Mary. Thanks for writing into us. Do you have one, Keegan?
Yes, I have a women's painting group and we meet every Wednesday to create. And so we had a lot of deep conversation the past couple of weeks. And I jotted down some things that created a lot of conversation and a lot of reflection.
Mhm.
And one was, how do you deal with grief and loneliness after you've created boundaries and realize relationships aren't really what they seem, or that these relationships were built on things that were not unconditional, they were built on conditions. And how do you navigate the grief and the loneliness in that?
Wow, that's a great question.
It is a great question, and it created a 2-hour conversation between 10 women, and it was amazing.
And I love that you have the different perspectives on that as well, right? Because we all come in with these different beliefs and perspectives, and so that must have been some conversation.
Yeah, and what I realized among it was the popularity of just becoming a hermit and how we go deep within ourselves when we're feeling lonely or we're dealing with grief. And it is against our nature to do that. We're tribal, like in essence, and we're supposed to be in groups. And I thought it was really ironic because I often feel myself hermit when downloads have to happen or transmutation has to happen or transformation is occurring, and it's kind of like that cocoon. And so what we all realized was that the hermit is necessary, the cocooning is necessary, the melting and the gooey part is necessary, or you stunt the wings. And I think that the part of grief is mourning yourself and mourning relationships that you know, knew deep, deep, deep down inside were for seasons and reasons. They weren't made to last forever.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really beautiful, and it gave myself and others um, camaraderie in that. Even in the loneliness, you can have camaraderie in it because everyone feels it when things have to end.
Yeah, that's so powerful because it's true. Often we feel so alone and all of our journey, right? Whether it's becoming a new mom or getting married or getting divorced, we feel like sometimes we're the only one going through it. But there's so many other people. And I love that we have the ability today to speak about this, to have a platform to talk and to share our beliefs and then the beliefs of our viewers as well. I think, you don't cure loneliness. Loneliness is
Yeah.
something, and it's like grief, right? Everybody wants to heal grief. I want to get through grief and get it over with. But you're not going to heal grief. You're going to come out on the other end of it. You need to learn how to sit with it and not abandon yourself within that. And I think as women, I know for me, abandonment is a big issue, and it's always abandonment of myself. Where have I lacked in the areas of setting boundaries? Where have I lacked in having the worth of myself not to continue relationships that I know should end? So it's always multi-layered, right?
And we really have to understand that loneliness is not a punishment. Grief is not a punishment. It's part of the process. It's part of the process of being human, and it's part of the process of digging deeper, and it's part of the process of change. Sometimes we will not change without the uncomfortable parts of life. And sometimes we need the uncomfortable to see what is grander or what is more of, you know?
Mhm.
And so it's not a punishment. And I think when we can have these open conversations and answer these kinds of questions, we realize it's not a punishment. It's part of the process, and we have to trust that process.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love how you said that. And talk to it and honor it and be in it. And I think, often I said earlier, but when we're around a bunch of people like that and we have these deepening conversations, and then we go home and we reflect ourselves. Well, what does that mean for me? Have I dealt with my loneliness of grief, or have I sat with the fact that I need to leave people behind? And that is sad. It is
It
sad
is very
sometimes. You love those people, but they're just
mhm,
not moving along with you on your journey and where you're going. And it's not fair to them either, right?
exactly. And I think that people want an answer from someone or something. And that is the part of loneliness. Like, you cannot receive an answer. It does have to come from within. But when we can sit with each other in the idea of, I understand loneliness and grief. I don't understand it in the level that you had to experience it. I'm understanding it in the level that I'm experiencing it. But just understanding that it exists and being okay and having an open space, it should give you the strength to then go and make those decisions for yourself and find the answers for yourself that are going to come from within. And so the strength that you need to find in grief and loneliness is not from someone else, but it is the strength that others are dealing with it too. And that the loneliness is not lonely, it's the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. All right. Next question is from Nancy in Las Vegas. She wrote to me and she said, "Was there ever a time that you almost gave up? I find myself stuck in patterns of wanting to give up, but how do you break through these cycles?" Wow. That's so profound because we all go through these experiences. And there are times that we want to just like fold in the cards. I'm done, put my white flag up. I've said that several times in my lifetime. Put my white flag up. I'm done. I surrender. But usually I find for me, and you can share a little bit after, but it's usually a sign of my own exhaustion. I've gone through this
Mhm.
and gone through it and gone through it, and I'm fighting something. I'm resisting something, right? I'm in that space where I don't want to give up. I'm very strong willed. So that's another aspect of it for myself. So that exhaustion comes from continually fighting a battle, an uphill battle, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Mhm. I have a similar question about shifting after you place those boundaries and you've done the work. And I agree with you when that exhaustion kicks in. I don't feel as though it is really, it's our mind saying we want to give up, but I really feel it's just the soul needing a deep, deep rest. And you have
Yeah.
to answer that. You have to answer that calling. And when you get to that point or that wall of exhaustion, then you have to also realize that you've done the work. And now it's time to rest and integrate that work that you've done so that when you create in your next steps, you have the longevity to do so. You won't go back into the old patterns because you allowed the rest to happen. You allowed the exhaustion to kick in and mourn or sleep or be in a hermit or go to the gym or do whatever it is that is going to allow your spirit to rest and allow the body to rest and integrate that. So I always say once you hit that wall of exhaustion, it's actually the best place to stop and start again.
Yeah, and I think we don't give ourselves enough credit in what that rest period means, especially if you have beliefs or thoughts around resting. What does that mean to you? If you believe that when you rest that you're lazy. So,
Yes.
we often have that, but knowing that you're in this cycle and breaking through is actually in that rest period, as you said. Allowing yourself to be in that space is giving yourself the space that you need to create to break through that cycle. So you're recognizing, oh, maybe it is a thought, or maybe it is a pattern that I have. And why do I continually go through this? And in that space, when you're resting, is when the magic happens.
Yeah, and it's not a weakness to want to give up. We're just trained that if you don't work hard, you don't deserve something. Or if you're not constantly in motion, then you're not, elevating or you're not excelling. But that is completely false. When you want to
Yeah.
give up, it is the perfect time to give up and rest. And it's not giving it up, it's tabling it for a later date, or it's coming back to source, or it's coming back to center to realign yourself and see where you need to go from here. But I think so much sickness and so much mental anguish and so much suffering is because we don't listen to the rest. We fight the giving up. We fight that surrender when
Yeah.
we shouldn't. We should totally lean into it.
Yeah. And then your body is exhausted. And what happens with me, and it happened recently again because I'm a slow learner, I got sick.
Yep.
I did not
Exactly.
rest. And so when I don't
Exactly.
rest, and especially you and I were just talking before the show, especially this time of year, we're working really long hours. We're working to get everything done. We have everybody calling us in every different direction. I mean, I was wrapping gifts last night and I was like, I don't have enough bags. I don't have enough tags. Like I'm driving myself crazy. Like I thought I had all this stuff and I don't have it. And so our bodies will say, hey, well, you know what? You're not really listening to me. So let me give you a reason to listen. And now you're sick and you can't do all of these things that you want to do. And what will happen if you don't? The world isn't going to end. Often, I think as women, we put so much on our own shoulders and we try to be the best and we try to do everything for everyone and even for ourselves, right? We are doing for ourselves now, but sometimes we just need to rest. We just need to stop.
And if you take it back, like maybe 100 years ago or 200 years ago, we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the resources we did. So it's very much embedded in our DNA to follow the cycle of the earth. And right now, if you watch the animals and you watch what's happening in nature, they're all rushing around and grabbing resources and trying to bunker down for the winter and trying to make sure that they have everything. And they feel this stress because if they do not, they will not make it through the winter. And I think it's deeply embedded in our DNA. And I think a lot of us need to have grace in that as well, that we're fighting something very primordial inside of us too. It's not just our logic mind, but it's our bodies, realizing that we have less daytime in the day, realizing the winter's coming, realizing that resources are going to be thinner and, that we need more to survive because we're going to be spending more time indoors. And so sometimes it's not something wrong with us. It's literally our nature versus nurture like kicking in, and it's normal, you know? And so we have the ability to rest, and we have the advancements. We're not living in teepees anymore and, following buffalo to survive the winter. We have homes, and we have luxuries, and we have resources, and we can rest, and we have abundance, and we're not lacking anything.
Yeah.
And just that alone is very peaceful and calming to think about.
Yeah. So going back to sort of what they did in the old days, right? Following those cycles, the cycles of the moon, the cycles of the tides, the cycles of the sun, the cycles of the seasons, and flowing through I think we've steered so far away from whatever that was, that we're trying now to sort of back paddle and relearn, right? Because we're a new generation. We're trying to relearn what our ancestors already knew.
Yeah. And we feel like something's wrong in it when it's not.
Mhm.
It is our bodies preparing. Winter
Yes.
is rest. Winter is more of rest. So we're preparing for the rest season.
Absolutely. So what was your next question? Did you say your other question had something to do with that? So was there one after that?
Was from my friend, she says, how do you shift after boundaries are in, the work is done, and you have to manage realizing that your relationships are not real love?
Mm.
I know, very.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. It's difficult, I think, because we as human beings get caught in this complacency of our life. We
Mhm.
like the life we have, per se. It's comfortable. We go to work, we have our relationships, we come home, we go on vacation. We just sort of tend to we're routine kind of people. So we sort of tend to do the same things year after year after year. And now here we are, and we've done the work, and we're needing to change things. And how do we let go? How did she say it? How do we let go?
Yeah, how do we manage realizing that relationships were not real love?
Hmm. I
And I
think
said, first off, the work is never done.
that is
Let's say
true.
that first. The work is never done. And I also think that instead of, again, trying to find something wrong with it, we have to find everything right with it. For you to realize that it was not love means you found deeper ways to love yourself. And you are no longer tolerating things that do not feel like love, or
Yeah.
the new conditions, because everything is conditional. No matter what they say about love everything unconditionally, everything has a condition. Let's be real. That is completely bypassing nature. You know what I mean? And we just have to come to terms with what conditions give and receive equally, and what conditions leave people feeling um, whole instead of
Mm.
empty. And I think that managing that is a mourning process, because you're mourning and grieving the person you were that allowed that love to exist that wasn't real.
Yeah.
And now that you have shifted and created the boundaries, the love that you are going to receive from losing love is going to be even greater.
Yes, because you're learning to love yourself, and you're learning to know what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. I look back on my life, and there were so many things that I accepted that should not have been accepted. And
Yes.
today I am such a different person. I'm like, how could you have allowed that to occur? And I sort of do sometimes get into a place of, well, it happened. That's the way I was. I try not to really relive it. But when I look at it, I look how far you've come in changing, and how you loved yourself enough to be able to. And I think that trickles down into all of it, body, mind, and soul. Where have we abandoned our bodies? Where have we abandoned our minds? And where have we abandoned our souls? Because I don't think, if you're in this place, and I think we know what should be acceptable to us, and everybody has a different level of what they would accept or not.
Exactly.
But I think, if you're being treated poorly, or if somebody's being unfair, then I think and it's just a matter of when are you going to say enough is enough. Prime
Exactly.
example is when somebody crosses those lines or those boundaries or says things, oh, I was just kidding. Oh, I didn't mean it. Well, it doesn't matter whether you meant it or not. You said something that shouldn't have allowed to be said. And now where you're at with your boundaries, you don't allow that to happen anymore. And I think that gives the soul, the mind, and the body a place to say, hey, they're really standing up for me, right? They're really understanding who they are in this moment, that that's not something that's allowed or tolerated anymore.
And you know what else I'm realizing, Terry? And this is like a recent realization within myself, because I too have had to draw boundaries, and I would say that I was being tested in boundaries, but I don't think I'm being tested in a negative way. I just think it's spirit checking in, like, hey, are you really the person you're practicing to be? Are you really the person you're preaching to be? And what I'm realizing too is the negative pushback that you get, or the negative that you get from saying enough is enough, is actually that person meeting their own resistance, meeting their own wall. And it's a projection that you are receiving from that person, because all of a sudden you have the audacity to say what love is, or you have the audacity, right, to give yourself what makes you feel good, or what makes you a better person, or create your lines or boundaries. And some people have never thought of that for themselves. So you're being met, I think, sometimes with the projection of that audacity and the reflection that that person is having in the moment, of where
Yes.
they're not loving correctly, or maybe not receiving love, or maybe the conditions in which they created love. So
And
it's
now
not
they're sort of like forced to look at that like, well, I accepted it. Why aren't they accepting it?
exactly. And it allows you to give grace a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm.
And I wouldn't say like accept it from somebody, or accept the negative response you're getting from someone, but it allows you to kind of shield yourself and not absorb it, because it's not you. It is now a reflection that they have to have, because you've had the reflection and you've made the change, and the change is now here. It's in the present moment, and they have to now absorb their shitty behavior, or the way in which they are giving love conditionally, or the way in which they're not treating you appropriately.
Absolutely. Perfectly stated. My next question is from Linda in Oregon. She says, when did you embrace your power instead of hide it? Wow.
Ooh.
I had to really
I'm still
sit.
doing it.
Yes, I had to sit and think about this, right? When did I embrace my power and not hide? And I'm still doing it because I've shifted and changed so much. And I remember like being as a child and being free spirited and seeing spirit and not being allowed to express it. And then
Yes.
as I got older, I would say, oh, hey, by the way, I can see spirit, connect with spirit and all this. Okay, this was acceptable. Now they're like, okay, well, that's acceptable. Okay, so let's push you a little bit further and talk about
Mhm.
extraterrestrials here. And we'll
Oh,
push you a little
oh,
more further out of your comfort zone. But yeah, I think for me, I realized that shrinking myself wasn't really keeping myself and honoring me. Does that make sense?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's when
And
I
I,
learned more not to hide who I was and learn to use my voice and I don't care if you like it, don't like it, laugh at it. I've really come, I think, to full circle to this point in my life where others' opinions of me, they don't matter.
no, and they're not living your life. They're not in the day-to-day moment. They're not, creating the decisions. They're not creating the moments. They're just extras in your play, I guess, That's how I think of it sometimes. Like, it's just an extra in the play.
I love
And
that. My son and I
am
were
the
talking
main
about,
character.
I
I
love
am the
it.
main
And my
character.
son and I were talking about NPCs the other day, and I'm like, well, like I'm like trying to stir his thinking. I'm like, well, what if you're the NPC?
Yeah. Or like even this morning, I'm driving home from dropping the kids off from school, and the speed limit is 45. Okay. And this woman is doing 25 in front of me. And so I'm not exactly a car length behind her. I'm like up her ass. And she pulls over to the side of the road and she starts giving me the finger and cussing at me and stuff. And I started laughing hysterically. And I'm like, this is the NPCs. Like, I'm in a great mood. I am happy. And this is the balance of it. This is the mirror reflection of it. Like, this lady is like taking her life way too seriously. And then I realized I like had a moment and I'm like, some people just really go through life very slow and I don't. And this is just an extra. This is just an extra. But a lot of people would get upset. Like, why are you giving me the finger? You're the one going 45 or you're the one going 25 and a 45. What's your problem?
Right.
You know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to me anymore, it's just like a chuckle. It's like, wow, how bad is your life today that this is like so triggering for you?
I think for a lot of people, it's pretty bad. I sit in traffic every morning driving my daughter to school, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back. And by the time I get home, I'm just like, I can't believe the amount of people. I'm like, I keep telling my husband, like, when am I going to get out of this damn matrix? Like, she's driving now and she doesn't ever.
It really is. And so like, I'm totally for the idea of the NPCs because they can't all be real.
They're definitely not.
I feel like Pac-Man and like sometimes things are just placed in front of me to annoy me. I don't know.
Yeah. Keegan, slow down. So I got that message, slow down, because I got a ticket a few weeks ago. My message was clear, slow your ass down. And since then, I have to say, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about things that come into our awareness. I have to say I've been much more calm in traffic. I've been much more aware and present of what I'm doing, the speed that I'm doing. And my daughter's like, oh my gosh, you're like a totally different person. Because before I was probably like, screw you, get off the goddamn road.
Oh, it is interesting.
It's crazy.
But I say I'm the main character and others are just extras.
Yes, extras.
And that doesn't mean I treat people like shit. I can't worry about all of the extras. They're just background noise, or it's just, the background of what's happening. I can't let that affect my decisions. I can't let it affect who I am, or hide who I am because of it. The main character is the one front and center for a reason. If I shrink myself and I deny myself who I am, then I just become an extra in my own play. And how is that possible? You know what I mean? Or why would you want to watch a movie where no one's a main character? where does the storyline happen? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true. More of us need to start thinking we are the main character. So what is your next question?
It's okay to think that you're the main character. It's not conceited. It's not cocky. It's the truth. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's you, yourself, and I that have to make the decisions and have to create in your life. So why wouldn't you think you're the main character?
There's a new affirmation. I am the main character.
Yes. And I am playing this role.
So what's your next question?
My next question comes from my husband, actually.
Oh, yay.
Yes. He says, how do you start to bring joy back into your life?
That is a powerful one.
His biggest thing is once you shed so much, right? And once you let go of so much, how do you start allowing yourself to bring it back in? And how do you start allowing yourself to contain and really feel and really absorb these moments of joy? Because it becomes uncomfortable once you've suffered for so long. It's almost as if you don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a good question.
Yeah.
Because some people are afraid to experience joy because that means something bad is going to happen, or that means the pendulum is going to swing the opposite way. So if I just don't accept joy, then pain can't come either.
Yeah. Have you heard that? Like, often people who have had trauma experience this thing sometimes where they believe that bad things usually happen in threes. And
Yes.
so if three bad things happen, then okay, I can accept that some good's going to happen. But if I've only had one or two bad things, I don't know if I'm ready to accept that. And so I think it's like a relearning, right? A gentle relearning of learning. So for me, like with the grief, I've had to learn after the death of Anthony that I can have joy and I can have grief. And it's sort of the same thing when you're experiencing letting go of old traumas and pain. You want to be able to acknowledge that they were there and they made you who you are. But you also want to be in a space where you say, hey, I deserve the ability to experience joy and I can have both. And so I think it's finding that balance, but it's not like forcing it, right? You want to do
No.
things more that bring you joy, whether that's being outside or going hunting or being at home with your family watching TV, whatever brings you more joy, I always feel like is the goal for you to start to relearn what that feels like.
Yeah. And I also think, like how you said, that people kind of seek the third. They seek, okay, let's get 1, 2, 3 out of the way so that I don't have to worry about, what bad thing is coming next or what negative thing is coming next. We can also seek joy in the same exact way. We can create moments of joy. We can, just as we can create moments of destruction and moments of horror, we can create it. So like you said, being with your family or going out in nature and all of these things, that's great too. But like, you can create things that make your body feel good, like going and helping someone that is less fortunate than you, picking up, if your wife loves flowers or your wife loves chocolate or your husband loves a certain thing, just going out of your way for a moment to bring something to the table or create a moment of joy for someone else. It doesn't have to be like this particular action happened and then that caused me joy. You can create joy, and that's what's so great about life is
Yeah.
just as things are destroyed, things are created. And once you do become the main character, you realize that you have the ability to create these moments.
Yeah. It's so
You do.
powerful.
A clean house might create some joy for someone. You have the ability to clean your house. A new bedspread might create joy when you walk in your bedroom every day. You might put a smile on your face, to make a child laugh or to make somebody feel good that, is depressed, or, we create these moments. And I think that allows us to bring joy into our lives, because you're not waiting for it to happen the same way
Yes.
we wait for an event to happen or an action to happen. We can create it.
Yes. Create it and embrace it. Trust it.
Yeah,
Trust it. Trust that it's going to bring you happiness no matter what it is.
exactly.
Even in the small moments of joy. Everybody talks about these big moments, but really being in the small moments. I love when I buy myself flowers. I don't do it often enough, but when I do it, I'm like, oh, I should be doing this every week.
And washing dishes in the kitchen and looking at your fresh cut flowers puts a smile on your face, and that's a moment of joy that you
Yeah.
created. Or
And
smelling
that
it when
ripples
you're
out,
hot.
right? It ripples
Yeah,
out and it creates more joy, more
it
space for more
does.
joy to come into your life.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And something small too, like I'm dealing with a lot of car problems, and I do not want to get a new car. And it's not just being cheap and not wanting a car payment. It is, this car is 10 years of my life. It's 10 years of meditation. It's 10 years of cross country driving. It's 10 years of state to state moving. It's the car that brought my dog, like, his last car ride, and his car ride home to be buried. It's the car that my daughter and I have talked about life for 10 years. It's so much more to me. And he can go buy me a new car. Like, this is really happening in my life. He is like, I'll just make her happy and I'll just go buy a brand new car. Who's not happy with a brand new car? You know what I mean? But joy for me is having her fixed, having my car fixed, because I love my car. And then having a man that is mechanically inclined to bring that moment of joy. So he spent his day off yesterday fixing my car. And that
Oh,
brought me more joy than him going and buying a new car. And he was so happy to see me happy, And we talked about like, this is joy. You think it's
yeah.
a mundane thing of, oh, we need a car to go point A to point B. And this is a stress and this is a stressor, but it's not. Our stressors can also bring us joy depending on how we approach them, how we
Yeah.
go head on with them, It is easier
Good
to go buy a
job.
new car, I'm sure. Joy it brings me to have my car is more.
Absolutely. Good job, Justin.
Yes.
Good question. Great question. And good job fixing the car. And you made your wife happy in the process, right? I think that,
Exactly.
couples sometimes, because men and women think so differently,
Mhm.
they may think this is better. Choice A is better than choice B. Often they're wrong.
Yeah.
Often it
He
is
was
the
like, he's
simplest.
not happy with a brand new car. I'm like, me, I want her.
Often it's the simplest, tiniest little things that make a woman happy. I've tried to explain this to my husband over and over and over again. I don't need extravagance. I don't need Paris in the summer. I need small, intimate moments of us sitting on the couch outside looking at the mountain. Those are the moments. It's free, it doesn't cost any money. But, in their minds, sometimes they see this big, extravagant thing that would be perfect.
Exactly. Or that
That's
they're
great
they're
too,
trained.
sometimes.
Yes. Or that they're trained also to feel like you have to gift and you have to work your ass off and you have to provide. But the amount of accomplishment that he felt and the little boy smile on his face last night because I
Yeah.
was so happy and he created that with his own hands. You know what I mean? He created that by providing a service for me, an acts of service of
Mhm.
love.
Beautiful.
And I think the
Oh,
accomplishment in that is so much more than a monetary thing.
yeah.
It
How
is like it's
beautiful.
easy to go buy something. It's hard to put your hard work to fix something. And that's a
Yes,
testament to life. Sometimes we have to put in the hard work to fix something and not just throw it away and go get a new.
absolutely.
That
Good
makes
job.
has a lot of word.
Our next question. I think this is a great question. Would you rather, and I heard it somewhere the other day, it wasn't from somebody, but would you rather lose all of your memories or the ability to make new ones? And I had to sit with this, and I'm still like on the fence a little bit, right? I think for me, when I look at it, I'm like, I go back and forth, but I'm like, I think I would rather lose the ability to make new ones than lose the ones that I have. What about you?
I feel as though losing memories would be a lot less suffering, that's for sure. But I think I don't know. That is
But
really,
you
really
just
hard
said it
because
with the car and all the memories of the being with
exactly. And like,
Liv and the dog and traveling. It's
so
a hard
I think,
question.
yeah. And I think that creating new memories, does that mean that you don't get to experience new things or you just don't remember new memories? Like, this is a loaded question, because old memories become old memories by new experiences. So I think I would have to lose the future memory because that's just a daydream. If I'm still seeking experience, they're going to become old memories, right? So I'm going to be able to keep them because they become a thing of the past. And I think living in the future is just anxiety of things that never really come. So I think I would have to drop the memories of the future
Yeah,
to keep
yeah.
the old memories.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun one. I'm like, I have to add that one.
That's
Um,
really and very loaded because
yeah, but depending on how you think about it, right? Because we all think and process differently. So it could be this
yes, yeah.
one. Somebody wrote to me and they wanted to know, what did this year of you and Keegan podcasting together teach you?
Mm.
Wow. And I thought about it and it's like, I think when we're together, our connection is so real and it's so genuine and so authentic that people sort of gravitate towards that. But what it's taught me in this year is that we have the ability to connect with people that maybe we would have never known.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of us get stuck in these complacent traditional roles and we don't step out of what that means for ourselves. But you and I stepping into this platform once a month, and creating a beautiful environment for people to come and listen and share, I think has been a beautiful teaching experience for me. Watching you grow and blossom in this past year has been amazing to me, to be able to see that through your eyes. It's been wonderful.
I love that. Thank you for that. And I have to agree with you and the consistency in it. The consistency in having someone that you know loves you and isn't in competition with you, isn't in
Mhm.
um the day-to-day grind with you. You know, they're states and states and states of way, and they're loving and living the same, and they're creating magic somewhere else. And that consistency for me, and for you to give me a platform to speak, and for you to see me for who I am, and for us to be mirrors to one another, has just taught me so much. And it's opened so many doors in the day-to-day life that you don't even see, you know, to be able to speak freely about spirit and life and living and loving and losing,
Mm. Yeah.
and really being received in that, allows so many other doors to open. And now, what has it been, like 6 months, 7 months? Just within
Yeah.
those 6 and 7 months, my life has changed drastically, because when you choose to be on a podcast and you choose to put yourself out there for the public to see, you know, you have to remain consistent in some parts of yourself, but you also have to live differently too. You can't be out preaching something and not applying it to life. You can't be out saying
Yes.
something and not applying it to life, because people see the inauthenticity in that, and people
Yes. Yes.
see the fakeness in that. And it has pushed me to open more doors in my own life to follow spirit, and, you know, put me in psychic circles, and it's put me
Mhm.
in witch circles. And I have different friends that have different conversations that are pushing even further. And it's created abundance in more ways than just, you know, that
Yeah.
the podcast. It's connection, and it's seeing someone for who they are and believing that
Yeah.
they exist, you know,
Yeah.
because people like
Well,
you everywhere.
yeah.
And I
Well,
love
thank
that
you.
now.
And thank you. Yeah. And it's been a miracle. You know, I think that it does go deeper than what you're just seeing here.
It does. Like when I met you, you know, you're always skeptic of things, especially when you've been through a lot of darkness in your own life. And the consistency of love that we give each other, and the consistency of understanding that we give each other, and the drive that you always have, and the belief you always have in spirit, and how that mirrors me, is just so, I'm grateful of it. I'm so grateful of it, because it gives me the strength to carry on when those mirrors are not directly in front of me all the time, you know?
Yes, I do know. I appreciate you. Thank you. Do you have any more questions before we finish up?
Um, what this one was from an aunt. She said, "Where do you even start with addressing your shadow?" I know. I was like, I should have saved this one for last. I looked at it and I was like, no, I want to go there. But where do you even start? Because we had this big conversation about I was doing tarot reading, and I was giving the women reading 2 weeks ago. And one of the things that kept coming up was avoiding the shadow.
Mm,
And she straight out asked, she said, well, where do you even start addressing your shadow?
yeah. I think, you know, where do you keep seeing these patterns, these triggers, these things that keep popping up in front of your face? And where do you keep denying it, denying it, denying it? Again, going back to the boundaries, just say they cross the
Mhm.
boundary, cross the boundary, cross the boundary. You let them, you let them, you let them. You know, you've got to start addressing what that is, because you can't make somebody
No.
not cross your boundaries. All you can do is allow how you react to them crossing your boundaries. And by you setting the pace for putting the line in the sand and not letting them cross your boundaries, that's on you. I learned that a long time ago. Like, that's on you. You know, they weren't doing anything to me. It was me allowing myself. So I think when you start to look at yourself and you see what kind of triggers you're having, what keeps repeating, what is asking to be seen here? Because how
Yeah.
many times for me it was always abandonment. I was abandoning myself to please somebody else, and he would cross the line and cross the line and cross the line, but that was on me. And so I think when you start to look at what that is about yourself, right? And you're starting to say, all right, well, these are the things in me that I need addressing. And where is that shadow sitting within me? And often it is stuff from our childhood.
Yeah. That is a great answer. I also said that you have to see where you're allowing yourself to play the victim and why you feel as though you're lacking something. And why is it that you feel that, because it's the ego, shadows our ego self. And where is it that you feel that someone or something or some situation is going to give you what you're lacking, when you have the ability to do that for yourself? And when you start asking those questions, this is when we start to see the shadow. You can start to see the pattern, because I think not everybody has the ability to identify patterns. I can pick them up like this. I'm really good with it to the point where it's annoying to myself and people. And I'm sure you can contest to that too, because it is annoying. It is to have to sit in the shadow. But when you really say, like, what is it about this trigger that is making me feel as though I lack something? Because even in abandonment, like, where are you lacking? What acknowledgement do you need? What attention do you need? Where are you being abandoned? Where is the victim in this? And it's like, people are very uncomfortable to see themselves as a victim, but it is you that is your shadow self. Where are you hurt? Where are you unfulfilled? Where are you, unhappy? Where are you sad? Where is it in you?
Yes.
And why do you think someone else or something else or some situation is going to fulfill that?
And it's not going to save you. We're here. We're only
Yep.
going to save ourselves, and we're only going to be able to fulfill ourselves. Wow. This has been an amazing show today. I have to say, I knew it was going to be good. I knew we were going to have some great questions ahead of time when you and I were talking. But I think to end the year like this, it's been fun, and it's been really a deep dive into sort of a completion of the whole year.
Yeah. And, it's the year of the snake that we're leaving, right? And it has been a huge shed. It has been for the collective. And I think it's been for the individual. And, when a snake does shed, there's so much new, and there's so much growth, and so much can happen, and there's so much new energy in it. And so I'm really excited for what this next year is going to bring. Because I think that if you have allowed the shed to happen and you didn't resist it, then you're ready for new. You're ready to be out there. You're ready to be seen. And I can't wait to see shining stars.
Me too. Me too. Well, thank you for joining us today. This is Terry and Keegan, and we will be joining you next year again with some brand new, really, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more racy topics.
Yes. I think so too. And no longer afraid to be seen in it. Judge away.
Yes, absolutely. So we will see you next year.